Hola, clase. Vamos a continuar revisando los verbos irregulares totales del pretérito. Okay, clase. So today is the segundo parte. We've already done the primer parte, and we reviewed 4 of the total irregular verbs in the preterite tense. So today we're looking at 6, and in the tercer parte, we're going to be looking at 8. That's a total of 18. So I really need you guys to be taking this seriously and copying the meanings for these verbs down. And I also need you to be copying the conjugations down into your notebooks. I know that you have PowerPoints that you can go back and look at, but by copying them down, it will help you commit these verbs and their meanings to memory. This year, you are going to use these verbs a lot, not only when you're writing or when you're reading, but also when you're speaking. And so if you don't know them and if you don't know what they mean, you're not going to survive this year, or at least you might survive the year, but you're not going to be walking out with a grade that you're proud of. All right. So if you keep letting this pile up and you don't take it seriously and you don't take notes now, you're going to regret it later, because I am going to be expecting you to know what these verbs mean, and you're going to have to know that they're irregular. I'm not going to put nice little neat sections where you have 5 questions that I tell you they're all stem changers, and then 5 questions and I tell you that they're all irregular verbs. They're just going to be mixed up. So there'll be regular verbs, there'll be irregular verbs, there'll be stem changers, and you'll have to figure out which ones they are. So we're going to be looking, like I said, at 6, and we kind of have 2 different groups here. We're going to look at the verbs tener, estar, and andar together, okay? And then we'll look up at the verbs hacer, venir, and querer after that. And I want to talk about some of the different meaning changes when we use the pretérito in the past tense. So tener just means had. If you're talking about what you had yesterday or for a short amount of time, you would use the verb tener to talk about having something in the past. Estar means was or were. When you're talking about location, would normally be when you would use that. Andar means walked. Hacer is did. So like ayer yo hice mi tarea. Venir is came. And then querer kind of changes meaning when we talk about it in the past tense. So in the present tense, it means I want, right? But if you think about it in the past, if you want to say I wanted, you would probably use the imperfect tense. So quería. If you use the preterite tense, really what you're saying is you tried, okay? So if you say yo quise, it's I tried. If you say no quise, it would be I refused, or I refused to do something. As I read over the conjugations for these verbs, make sure that you're copying them so that you can practice them, or try to say them out loud as well to practice them. So the verb tener gets conjugated like this: tuve, tuviste, tuvo, tuvimos, and tuvieran. For estar, estuve, estuviste, estuvo, estuvimos, estuvieran. And andar, anduve, anduviste, anduvo, anduvimos, anduvieran. And these 3 get grouped together because they all have the same endings. So if you look through there, you'll see that they all have the same endings, at least, up to a certain spot. Usually starting at the U. The rest of it is all going to be exactly the same. And so if you memorize these together, all you have to do is take off the ending and then add these, if you want to call them strange endings. Although there are some similarities if you compare it back to like the endings for the regular preterite, the A, iste, o, imos, and ieran. These endings are just kind of mixed from AR, ER, IR verb endings. And then even though these are mixed ER and AR verbs, they all end up just getting the same ending. So that's what makes them irregular. But when you actually look at the endings, they're not too strange. And here's the next three verbs that we're going to group together because they all kind of follow a similar pattern in the preterite tense. So we have hacer, hice, hiciste, hizo, hicimos, hicieron. Venir, vine, viniste, vino, vinimos, vinieron. And then querer, quise, quisiste, quiso, quisimos, quisieron. And really what kind of unites all of these is the I. So if you look all the way through there, they're kind of like stem changers if you think about it. But the stem changers don't really make any sense. They can't fit into preterite and stem change categories that we have because A never usually changes to I. But in this case, all three of these verbs have a stem change. They get the I in there. And then they do have all the same endings, the A, iste, o, imos, and ieran, which were in the other three that we just looked like. So if you look at those patterns, it will help you memorize these. But really, there's no shortcut here. You still have to just memorize them, practice them, whether that's copying them or saying them. But those patterns, and by grouping them like this, hopefully will at least help make the memorization process a little bit easier for you. All right, so let's read some of these examples and we'll translate them to English. So, el año pasado, Catalina hizo una fiesta. So last year, Catalina made a party. We say had a party, but in Spanish, they translate it a little bit differently and say that you make a party. The next one's a question. So, ¿qué hiciste ayer? This is one you want to practice and be able to answer. So, what did you do yesterday? Ayer yo quise dormir temprano. So, yesterday I tried to sleep early. This is implying that you tried to sleep early, but that you were not successful. Querer is a very tricky verb when you have to decide whether you're using the preterite tense or the imperfect tense because it changes meaning. We'll probably talk about this more in class when I can maybe give you some more examples. If you said, ayer yo no quise dormir temprano, then you would be saying, yesterday I didn't want to sleep early and I also refused to sleep early, so I didn't sleep early. Is what you would be communicating. And then if you used the imperfect tense, it would be completely different. Ayer yo quería dormir temprano was just like an ongoing action. Yesterday, I wanted to go to sleep early, like ongoing. But, I don't really think that tells you whether then you actually were successful or not. You would pretty much just have to say, yo dormí temprano. That would be saying I did go to sleep early if you actually did it. Nosotros vinimos a la escuela ayer. So yesterday we came to the school. ¿Cómo estuvo tu cumpleaños? How was your birthday? Las mujeres anduvieron al supermercado. The women walked to the supermarket. ¿Tuviste un buen día, amigo? Did you have a good day, friend? Then ayer estuve muy enfermo. Yesterday I was very sick. This is implying that you were sick for that amount of time and that you're better now because you're using the preterite. So it's something, a one-time completed past actions. So you're telling someone by using the preterite version of a star that you're more than likely not sick anymore, that it's over. Those are just some examples. We can discuss this more in class because I'm going to guess you might have some questions, especially about the verb querer.